I hope you're doing well. My name is Matt Rosensteel, and today our topic on this live Costa Rica chat broadcast from Playa Junquial is going to be family travel here in Costa Rica. For a long time, my son's wife and I basically stayed home because we had young boys. There was also COVID, but we've started branching out more and taking some road trips around Costa Rica. Most recently, we went to La Fortuna, which is the town at the base of the world famous Arenal volcano. And the trip inspired me to give some information, not only about just general tips for traveling around Costa Rica, how you navigate, how you can plan a road trip, etc. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about La Fortuna itself. On my channel, I frequently am only focused on areas out here in Guanacaste, the coastal beach areas. And so I wanted to give some more information about La Fortuna as a possible destination for people to visit. Potentially, it could be an interesting place for my clients to search for real estate. I am owner-broker of Coldwell Banker Pacific Realty, and my channel largely focuses on Costa Rica real estate. But today I wanted to use our family travel experience here from our trip to La Fortuna as a way to present information about driving around the country and road trips here in Costa Rica. First, we'll go over the roads here, navigating Costa Rica, how to plan the travel logistics of a road trip here. Second, we'll talk about the need to find a good hotel for kids and some of the suggestions I have related to that. Next, we'll talk about La Fortuna and the Arenal volcano itself. And finally, I'll give just a few ideas as to things that I would bring on a Costa Rica family vacation to ensure its success. We also have a few funny video clips. You'll get to see me slow motion down an incredibly fast water slide at the hotel we stayed at. And we'll also get to see how Jonas and Daniel liked the hotel we stayed at. Here's a clip to give you an idea of how they were feeling. So thanks very much for joining me today, folks. Our topic is family travel here in Costa Rica. Stay tuned. If you're visiting Costa Rica or already living here and considering taking a road trip with your family, today's live chat with Costa Rica Matt is for you. A couple weeks ago, we went to La Fortuna as a family. We had an absolutely wonderful time there, spent 3 nights at a resort that we'll talk about in a little bit. And overall, I wanted to give some travel tips for anybody considering undertaking a similar venture here. So first, let's talk about the roads and logistics of finding your way around Costa Rica and planning ahead here. And first of all, one of the most important points I wanted to make in planning a trip around Costa Rica is that the distances can be very deceiving, and it may take a lot longer to reach your destination than if you were planning a trip in the US or Canada. Let's quickly talk about where we were aiming to visit here. Now you can see in Costa Rica, we live out here near Tamarindo, just about 30 minutes south of it, and we wanted to get over to Arenal, the pin over here in red, which is only a distance of 136 miles, which doesn't sound like too much. I know that in the US, I would typically plan that you can make, 60 to 70 miles per hour. However, that's very different here in Costa Rica. And 136 miles driving distance took us about 4.5 hours. Google Maps clocks it at about 4 hours, and we were just a little bit over that because of our breaks and the leisurely pace we take. But there are very few places anywhere on the highway system in Costa Rica where you're going to be able to do more than 50, 60 miles an hour, or even maintain that speed consistently. And you should plan that road trips and driving distances are going to take a significant amount of time, more than that same distance would take in the US. Now, as you plan, it's incredible. There will only be gas stations at major intersections. Again, if we go over to looking at the map of Costa Rica here, for example, we have gas stations out here towards us at major road intersections. There's one at Belen, and then you also have several along the highway here as we make the turn towards La Fortuna. But as you get close to your destination, your last gas station, again, could be pretty far from where you actually land. And if you're not staying filled up, you could end up regretting it, if you're just assuming that you're going to be able to find, gas stations at every single corner. Another important aspect of planning a road trip here is that you will find the signage at any major intersection, or really signage in general here, is horribly lacking. And you need to prepare ahead of time to understand the route to your destination and the major intersections that you're going to hit along the way. An incredible example, when we're trying to go to San Jose from Guanacaste, for example, there is a major turn to get on the Caldera Highway to go into the Central Valley. And if you didn't know where this turn was, and if you weren't studiously watching your phone and Waze, you would easily miss that intersection, because there's nothing at that location to say, here's a major highway turning to your right to go to San Jose. And you'll find that's the case at intersections that are important for your navigation throughout the country. So it's really best, first of all, if you've been able to subscribe to a GPS service with your rental car while you're here in the country, that's absolutely great. I would still even recommend plotting out and working with someone who knows the roads in advance, so that you look at the GPS course that either Google Maps or Waze has plotted out, and then you want to verify, okay, is this the logical route to take to this other area I'm going to? And frequently you will find that those charted trajectories on the GPS apps are actually steering you in the wrong direction and something much more complicated. And if you're planning ahead before you hit the road, you might have a local who can easily tell you, no, this highway is a dirt road for 40 miles. You should actually go through these major cities to get out there. So rather than relying entirely on your GPS, I would definitely verify your route with a local resource. I would chart out the macro journey on a map and really understand where those major highways are. And then as I was going along the route, ideally you also have something that's on Google Maps or Waze to let you know, okay, that major intersection is coming up and I'm going to be turning in a mile. Because without your GPS, really, you may not see any kind of sign that shows you how to get over there. So we did our 4.5 journey over to Arenal La Fortuna. You'll also find here that because the roads are slower and more deliberate, oftentimes if you're traveling with kids like we are, Anne Marie and I have a 5 and 7-year-old that we'll bring up here. On Costa Rica roads, it can be very tough to keep them entertained whatsoever. And so absolutely, you should also plan that in this driving distance, in the time it'll take you to get from one point to another in Costa Rica, you might want to plan extra stops, really, and opportunities to take in the sights, because kids can get pretty sick of being in a car that's only going 30 or 40 miles an hour down some of these 2-lane roads. You should also incorporate extra time, because almost all of the major highways in Costa Rica are only 2 lanes, and an accident in either direction or even slow trucks can horribly add to the length of time it takes you to get somewhere. The roads are nowhere near as shock resistant or ready to handle an accident. Those can put an absolute major dent in your travel plans. And you'll see that, yeah, a 4-hour journey could quickly become a 6 or 7-hour journey if by chance there's some sort of problem on one of those 2-lane highways. So anyhow, let's move on to talking. Yeah, no, absolutely. Show, thanks for your comments. My kids get car sick too. And in fact, specifically going up to Arenal, the last half hour or 45 minutes of the drive around is actually the lake here, where you're up around an absolutely windy 2-lane road to get around the lake. It curves in and out of little, inlets and bays on the lake. Excuse me. It's one of the windiest roads in Costa Rica. And definitely when we're doing curves like this, my kids would end up car sick, myself included at times. And that's, you will find throughout Costa Rica, windy roads to get through mountain passes and to deal with Costa Rica's curvy topography. So very much you should plan on a slow car trip. You should plan on those windy roads, perhaps causing any kind of car sickness, and be prepared for that, perhaps with a doggy bag. Next, let's move on from the travel logistics to talking about hotels and catering to your kids here when you travel in Costa Rica. And importantly, I want people to realize that 90% of the activities that are interesting to tourists here in Costa Rica, the canopy tour, ATV, thermal hot springs, bird watching, sloth watching, all of these things that draw international tourists to Costa Rica, and the activities that will be available to you and your family on a trip here in the country can be very boring for kids of certain ages. And in fact, most of the activities will pretty much be unavailable to them. During this recent trip, there was no way we could convince my 7-year-old to consider getting on a canopy tour, which is where you're hanging from a cable flying above the canopy. We really did not feel safe and won't feel safe whitewater rafting. We don't want to take them on ATV tours just yet. And so there's a real difficulty in finding activities for those kids under 10 years who aren't going to be interested by bird watching or some of the more adult activities, and who aren't going to be able to do those adventure activities that require you're 18 or older, like the ATVs, etc. If you're coming to Costa Rica and planning on traveling with kids, you have an amazing opportunity to get them away from the TV and the tablet and the video game system, but you need to try and pick hotels that are going to give you that opportunity and that are going to really supplement the activities that are available for kids. When we go to Arenal, we've been there 2 times now, or rather the La Fortuna community, we stay at a place called Los Lagos, which someone had mentioned in the comments. They love it as well. This kind of resort has 18 different things for very young people to be interested in. They have a butterfly garden, they have turtle ponds, they have 15 different big fish tanks, they have 3 water slides, one of which you get to see me plummet down in slow-mo. They have all kinds of activities. They've got trails on the resort, or rather within it. There are 15,000 different things that we can offer our small kids to do at the hotel. And it really makes travel fun and interesting here. We don't feel that we're dependent on, having some kind of TV or movie available to our kids 24/7, because we pick these hotels with a lot of good activities for littler kids. You can find them throughout Costa Rica. I'm afraid to say, in Costa Rica, there are countless small boutique lodge businesses where, yes, you have smaller hotels that'll be perfect for adults to enjoy a quiet, enjoyable, and, sort of reflective vacation. But those boutique hotels may not have the activities that are going to keep a 10-year-old interested. And what I want to stress is that, unfortunately, a ton of the stuff that's available outside of the hotels here is also not going to interest the average person who's under 10. As one big example, I want to mention, wildlife tours themselves. People dream of coming here to see a sloth, and they might think that this is going to be an amazing journey for their kids. Seeing animals in the wild is often really not that of an amazing experience, because you're looking through a little telescope that your nature guide has brought at a little fur ball that might be 80 yards away from you in the tree, tucked all together and barely even moving. That kind of experience, birding, all kinds of things out in the woods, can be pretty dull for a little kid who doesn't aspire to see these species. And so you shouldn't count on that being an endless source of entertainment. As you're preparing, find one of those hotels that's got a million different little things for the kids, and you'll have a happier vacation by having access to that and bringing them home. We paid, I think, about $175 per night for what was an extremely comfortable hotel room. It was not the Ritz-Carlton in any way, shape, or form, but definitely a large room with good beds, very comfortable, size, really well-kept hotel. For $175 a night, we did have breakfast included in our meal. And you'd find that the breakfast included in the package. And I think you would find that a lot of resorts are going to offer a similar package, including that breakfast every morning, and, with lunch and dinner available as well if you want to, obviously go to the restaurant for those. What else did I want to show with that? Oh, yeah. So that, Jonas and Daniel here, another reason we love Los Lagos, they have pools everywhere with bridges, all kinds of just really cool stuff for kids to goof around on. And you can find that kind of place here throughout the country. I wanted to mention wildlife opportunities, and I said that it can be pretty uninspiring when you go on some of the tours and you're just looking through binoculars to see a fur ball in the woods. We actually had an amazing experience on this trip where we took a walk on the hotel's nature trails. And let me make sure I'm going to bring up the right clip here. You can barely see them here. We'll try and get it so you can. Through the woods there, you've got wild pigs that we spotted. They're sort of munching on the grass there through the woods, if you can see just barely. They're shaking off a little bit. But anyhow, that was an experience we had at the resort, just walking up the hotel's trails that go up Arenal itself, or sort of towards the mountain. They also have this really neat viewing place there for Arenal. They actually have it set up sort of like this old church-looking, stone place here that you can see with seats on either side. The mountain is in the background there, and it's just a gorgeous spot for viewing Arenal itself. And again, this is the Los Lagos Resort, not at all pitching them in particular. It just happened to be great for our family needs and provided that perfect experience for kids who are 5 and 7. I'm going to talk a little bit about La Fortuna itself. And I was really impressed. La Fortuna is definitely booming as a tourist destination. And as a result, yes, in town, you're getting all kinds of tourism-focused development. There is a large gated residential community being built somewhere outside of town. You do see every kind of restaurant on every corner in La Fortuna. They've got the Caribbean place, the steak places, sushi, on and on and on, just every type of food that caters to tourists coming through. But what I really loved about La Fortuna is that it's also an authentic, real Costa Rican town where the center of town still has this absolutely beautiful, sort of old school feeling. In Costa Rica, all of the major towns were set up around a central plaza in the Spanish, colonial style. The town square has a church on it, inevitably, the cathedral. It usually has the town's health clinic. You'd usually find a bank there, etc. But in La Fortuna, they have this town square that feels straight out of, sort of like 1960s America, or what people have as that idyllic version of the town square in the US in the 60s. I took one video clip that doesn't really capture it, but we were out in the square in an evening where everybody in the community was out enjoying the evening. You had kids skateboarding around the park, parents sitting on all the benches. You had couples sort of promenading around the central square. Here you can see we're sitting and enjoying our ice cream. And then in the background, you've got the fountains and just really the town square where on every side you have vibrant little businesses. Some of them are definitely sort of that expat or catering to tourists overall. You've got a fancy chocolate shop, all kinds of restaurants that are definitely meant more for tourists. But then you had this amazing, just, sort of Costa Rican presence and really what felt like a community where people still get together in the evening. In that ice cream shop where we were waiting, that it was actually the fancy chocolate place. there were 7 or 8 Costa Ricans in line in front of us. There's, somebody who was clearly European enjoying, a smoothie behind us on a bench. At the park, there was an Indian family taking pictures at the fountain. And really, you just got this feeling that it was a cool combination between La Fortuna's cosmopolitan, touristy, people from all over the world, but still that Costa Rican community, and a Costa Rican community that's pretty prosperous. That whole area of the country has definitely had more success with ranching, with dairy production. Their tourism has been longer, established longer than some of the tourism out here on the coast. And you can really feel it palpably in La Fortuna itself, that there's really a great middle-class standard of living for a lot of Costa Rican families in the community. And you also got the absolute feeling that everybody felt secure in town. Lots of people knew each other. And in addition to the few tourists who were hanging out in town, you really still had the local Costa Ricans enjoying their community as well. So overall, we loved La Fortuna as a family with 7 and 5-year-old. We did spend a ton of time at our resort in different pools, or just walking around to the different animals that we always see. We went up to Arenal, or took a hike through the park for one of the days. Really, the park is just an opportunity to see the volcano itself. You wouldn't necessarily be utterly wowed by the Arenal National Park itself as a natural resource. It's an opportunity to go look at the volcano. And, you do also get that opportunity, from one of the resorts at the base of the volcano. You obviously also have in the La Fortuna area the very popular thermal hot springs and mud treatments and all of that going on. Obviously, with a 5 and 7-year-old, that's not really up our alley. But one of the final things that you absolutely can really enjoy up there is the lake tours. Lake Arenal is a man-made lake. It is wonderfully underexploited in that at any given time, there are probably only 2 or 3 boats anywhere on Lake Arenal. Really, you get out there on a tour with somebody and you feel like it's shocking that there aren't more people who get out on boats or stand-up paddle boards, etc., to enjoy the lake. It's absolutely massive. You could spend a day driving around on a boat, but most often your tour there, they'll take you to see some of the little caimans. They'll take you to see the birds that come into the lake, etc. And definitely for Costa Rica, Lake Arenal is something special that, if you're on a tour of the country, is one of the must-see destinations for people visiting the country. Finally, I wanted to wrap up before I get to the video of me plummeting down a slide in slow motion here. I wanted to give a few tips for things to bring, especially if you're traveling with kids in Costa Rica. Yes, that doggy bag, or some kind of bag for your car sickness issues, can be a great tip that we mentioned earlier. Really, I think that to try and keep your kids off of devices, etc., you should definitely bring binoculars and bird books. There's a super straightforward Costa Rica birding book that most people have, where, if you know the color and shape of the bird, you can generally find it. I think if you want to keep your kids engaged in something that's not just a hunt for the next episode on their tablet, bring them down here with those birding books and binoculars. the binoculars will come in handy 10,000 times when maybe you could look at plants. When you stop at bridges in Costa Rica, you can look down at crocodiles in the river. There's a million times that kids could pull out binoculars and have fun with those. Might also a magnifying glass on the other end of the spectrum. There's 10,000 bugs they will see here, all kinds of little stuff that they can find in the forest that would be interesting to bring home and sketch in their notebooks, or to check off a list for things they're trying to see on a scavenger hunt, etc. Do make sure that you bring big time water bottles to Costa Rica. The tap water here is absolutely drinkable everywhere you go, but there are a lot of places where you'd rather fill up your own water bottle at a hotel and bring it on your hike. And you'll find a lot of hikes and different tours in Costa Rica that don't have a nice beverage break halfway through. You might set off on a trail to go see a volcano and find out, yeah, it's going to be 2 hours of walking before you have access to good tap water again. So bring along a water bottle for your whole trip in Costa Rica and make sure you've got it with you, because just like gas stations, water fountains can be less frequent than in the US and Canada. I do think another thing, if I were a really diehard tourist in Costa Rica, I would consider bringing my own pillows to the country. Quite frankly, they're so important to your enjoyment of the trip, etc. And in Costa Rica, you'll find that bedding, and especially pillows, will be just like any other mediocre hotel pillows that you'd find elsewhere in the world, and perhaps to a worse degree that the beddings and linens available, excuse me, I'm going to shift here, here in Costa Rica are going to be inferior to the pillows that you find or would hope to find in hotels in the US. And one last little tip that I want to give people. Obviously bring a backpack along, because there will be 10 million times when you'd rather pack your valuables or have just a few things along with you that you're able to carry, rather than having to lug along your water bottle, your passport, stuff that you didn't want to leave in your hotel room. And I would recommend bringing masking tape. Because in Costa Rica, the only air conditioning in your hotels 99% of the time is going to be a mini split AC unit. And if you're trying to sleep at night, we've been in hotel rooms where that little screen that has the temperature on it in the mini split unit is bright and annoying. And trying to sleep all night with that little bright screen flashing there, we'd love to have a bit of masking tape to just be able to cover that and sleep in peace and quiet and not have to deal with the light. So anyhow, folks, oh yeah, Valerie commented, you can get a day pass at Los Lagos. Absolutely, the amenities there are really the draw, and at those resorts, getting to use the pools, the thermal areas, enjoy the slides, etc., are really what's important, and the rooms are nothing to write home about. So you might consider also just getting a day pass in one of these areas. I wanted to mention at Los Lagos, there is one of the water slides that looks relatively tame. However, it's at about a vertical angle when you actually hit it yourself. I wanted to show, before we leave here, first of all, I'm going to show myself catapulting down this slide at Los Lagos. And then I'm going to wrap up. We actually have a really good opportunity for a condo in our community right now. Motivated sellers have listed their beachside condo, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, at just $250,000, which is way below what the market value of that condo is. So I'm also going to play for you that fire sale condo video before we sign off. Again, my name is Matt Rosensteel. I'm owner-broker of Coldwell Banker Pacific Realty. If you're moving to Costa Rica and looking for help navigating the real estate market here, do be sure to send me an email to matt@cb.com. Down a slide. And we'll go back one more time, just to get the horrified look on my face as we realize how quickly that is going. And here's our condo, folks. Greetings from Playa Junquial, Guanacaste, Costa Rica, and Villas Las Ventanas, condo number 18. I rarely label something as a Costa Rica fire sale, but listed at $250,000, this 1,400 square foot, 2-bedroom condo that's located only 250 meters from an idyllic beach is an absolute fire sale. Let's take a closer look at the property. If you'd like to know more, be sure to send me an email to matt@cbpacificrealty.com.